Bro, okay, so I just got locked out of gym, and it started to rain, and I have my French horn, so, kind of freaking out right now, but yeah.
Hey all, today we talk about New York getting its act together, some marijuana taxes in other states, and Michigan getting in the psilocybin business. Okay, so starting with Michigan, that was actually a little misleading. They're not getting in the psilocybin business. They are getting in the legalization of psychedelics business, which we had kind of predicted happening after some bills were popping up in cities across the country, in Oakland, in other cities, and then especially the California bill, which gained a lot of traction and publicity. Now the same thing is happening in Michigan. It's a very similar bill. It would legalize possession and cultivation of psychedelics, pretty much the same plants and fungi. Seems to be sponsored by Senator Jeff Irwin. And they do one thing differently, which is they allow cultivation of the peyote plant, or the peyote cactus, which has been kind of controversial in the psychedelics world. Some people are adamantly against it because it should be used for Native American rituals and things that it's been being used for centuries now. And people are concerned that the cactus itself is going to be diminished when more people cultivate it, especially if it's legal to cultivate. The other side is saying that we should just legalize everything, and it's kind of a carte blanche feeling towards legalization of psychedelics, which both make sense. I wonder if there's a middle ground. But anyway, Michigan, this bill itself would legalize the cultivation of peyote. So we'll see where that goes. I assume it has a long process to go through the House and the Senate and all of that stuff, since the California bill had the same process and ended up kind of getting drowned in the whole thing. But we'll see that again next year. Let's go to New York, where we have the next story about this governor who is getting the ball rolling on all of this marijuana market stuff. There was kind of a stalemate when the past Governor Cuomo was in office, where he wasn't appointing people to the control board, the Cannabis Control Board, and the Office of Cannabis Management, which are two branches that were created when marijuana was legalized. They basically need to be appointed before a marketplace can open up, because they're the ones in charge of it. And specifically, the way they've worked it out is the Office of Cannabis Management is going to be overseeing and creating that entire marketplace and the rules and regulations around it, and then the control board is going to be overseeing that office. So the office itself is independent. The control board is more of a government branch. The governor is going to be appointing 3 people in the control board, and then the other 2 will be appointed by other people in the state senate, and then the director of the Office of Cannabis Management will be appointed by her. And that position has been filled, and the first position of the control board has been filled. So Governor Hochul has now begun the process, which is huge. And since it was only a week since she's been anointed the governor of New York, it seems like this process will end up being a pretty swift one. Great news, because they need to get to work basically before we can start buying weed at dispensaries in New York, which people are itching to do, and that's looking to be one of the bigger marketplaces in the entire country once that's kind of up and running, and it will be running for a few years. Finally, we're going to talk about some taxes that I think it's something to keep our eye on, the idea of where marijuana taxes are going, because every year we're getting more and more taxes taken out of marijuana, and the numbers themselves are freaking skyrocketing. California sales tax reaching over $1 billion each year. So there are 2 states that we'll focus on. One is California, where they have created a new grant that is going to put money into educating cultivators and weed farmers on how to be environmentally clean, which couldn't come any sooner, because we just did a story, I think a couple weeks ago, talking about a few farmers being fined up to like $50,000 for runoff from their farms into streams. and all of these things that, you know, is not a good look at all for marijuana, because marijuana is trying so hard to be this organic alternative and start the process in a way that is wholesome and looking towards social equity and all of this stuff. But then when you then become just another big corporate farm, it kind of ruins that look. So California is getting into the idea of taking our taxes from marijuana and using it to educate cultivators on how better to farm, which is great. And then the other one is Denver. This is kind of an interesting use of marijuana money, but this isn't final yet, but in the November election this year, on the ballot will be one proposal of adding 1.5% taxes to marijuana that would go towards pandemic research. And that would be research that like basically figures out how to stop the spread of pandemic related pathogens and viruses and stuff like that, which, you know, doesn't really have much to do with marijuana. It seems like something that we should be better at knowing because of what the situation we're in right now. But it's kind of fascinating that they would want to use marijuana money for that. I guess, you know, they might as well, because it's this one avenue where people are not really arguing against the use of more taxes. It's the easiest place to find more money, is basically what I'm saying. That's also in addition to another proposal on the ballot that would raise taxes on marijuana that would then go to low-income families. That makes more sense for marijuana to be related to it as opposed to the pandemic research. But basically, if those two things are voted in favor in November, the tax rate in Denver will go up pretty sharply. So all in all, taxes are basically a fluctuating thing when it comes to marijuana. We're trying to figure out the best practices, the best way to use the money, the best place to funnel it, as it should be, because it's a new thing and we're figuring out the best way as we go. But the California thing sounds great. They're using already allocated taxes. The Denver thing's a little worrisome with just using it for anything, although of course pandemic research does seem to be something that we should know. But that's the stories that we have today. I believe I'm taking the week off next week, so I'll be back the week after. I'll see you then.
Oh, Jacob, it stinks so bad like marijuana.